Hello, my name is Rainer from Year 8C, and in this video essay I will be explaining about the differences between the movie Holes and the book Holes. Holes is a highly respected literature piece first written in 1998 and later to be remade into a movie in 2003. In this video essay I will be explaining about how the process of the film adaptation changes the contents of the book, although some are decidedly kept the same for both versions of the story, and why it is so. Originally, Holes is a 233-page book written by Louis Sachar, which was originally published in August 20, 1998, republished again by Scholastic on September 2000. Holes won around 20 literary awards, including the most prestigious National Book Award and the Newbery Award. The book, which will later be adapted by Walt Disney Studios into a 2-hour action drama film in 2003. Stated next is a brief synopsis of the story. The story begins with a boy named Stanley Yelnats IV, who was described to be an innocent yet bullied child. The family of his continues to pass down a curse caused by a negligence of his great-great-grandfather Elia Yelnats, who did not follow the orders of a seer, Madame Zeroni, as a reason to blame if the Stanleys got in trouble. A shoe of a famous baseball player, Clyde Livingston, fell on Stanley, which took him by surprise. Here Stanley was convicted of a crime he did not mean and was given a choice by the judge to either be sent to jail or Camp Green Lake, which he picked the camp. While on the camp, Stanley built suspicion that digging holes wasn't for building character, but rather for a bigger purpose. Stanley continued to build his suspicion with Zero as they became good friends themselves, doing each other favors. One day Zero gets sick of the camp and leaves. Not long after, Stanley chases him, making sure that he still stays alive. In the end, both are forced to return to camp as they find the loot the camp was apparently looking for. The Attorney General and Stanley's lawyer finds the true intent of the camp, and Stanley and Zero are taken home as the other boys of the camp are set free to a proper camp, hence justice is served to the bad boys. I believe in nearly every film adaptation of a book, some changes have to be made due to the idea of realism for the audience to capture an idea better even if they haven't read the book, such as Stanley, whose role in the movie played apparently quite fitting, or for the purpose of a more possible way to shoot the film, such as the details of the conflict. One major difference between the book and the movie is the characterizations, which the characters have as traits from the descriptions of the story. To be more specific on the subject, an example I will be taking is Stanley Yelnats IV. For this difference, I will be discussing about the difference in physical appearance. While the book describes Stanley to be overweight, as stated in Chapter 3, Paragraph 4, Line 1, he was overweight and the kids in his middle school often teased him about his size. The movie did not refer to what the book has stated, and in the movie, Stanley was represented as a fit and slightly tall character, contrasting the descriptions of the book. The character who played Stanley was renowned actor Shia LaBeouf. Although from the aspects of characters' behavior, they were more or less similar, as Stanley was described to be caring, such as in Chapter 48, in a dialogue between Miss Marengo and Stanley, "I can't leave Hector behind," where in the book of roughly 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 11 seconds in, where he similarly said, "I can't leave without Hector," showing his intention of sticking with Hector although offered a chance of freedom, which is ethically correct. Another difference between both versions of the story is a difference of details of the chronology of some plot lines. For this essay, I will be mainly discussing about the chronology of how the main conflict started in the plot, where Zero steals the shoes of Clyde Livingston for Stanley to get the blame. Firstly, I would like to point out the main idea of the plot scene and how they differ in terms of how it happened. Both the book and the movie started with Zero stealing Clyde Livingston's shoes but ended up throwing them away and accidentally being picked up by Stanley as the main point of how the conflict started. Although slightly different from the book, the movie depicted how Zero wore the shoes before deciding to throw it from the flyover. Where in the book, chapter 41, paragraph 9, line 8, where Zero stated, "I just walked out of the door. No one noticed me. When I got outside, I ran around the corner and immediately took off the shoes. I put them on top of a parked car." Meanwhile, the movie reviewed that Zero confessed to have stole the shoes from a homeless shelter and wore it immediately before getting rid of it by throwing the shoes from the flyover, which accidentally fell on Stanley and later being picked up by him as shown in around 1 hour 1 minute 29 and second 31 in. The conflict shown here can be considered man versus nature conflict as part of the rising action of the plotline if the sequence of events were organized correctly. Following the current events of Zero's confession, both the book and the movie resolved the conflict similarly, with Zero regretting and apologizing his mistakes towards Stanley. While the book did not show further scenes, the movie decided to add Stanley laughing over the matter and calling the events that have happened destiny. Continuing the words from my thesis statement, I believe the reason the film producers would add or leave out some parts of the book is to create the idea of realism, something that would be believable in the eyes of someone who would actually be watching the scenes made from what were originally words. These changes are sometimes made for the better of perfecting the art form, although it does force to change the components known from the book and into the movie, such as how in the conflict they would probably thought it was hard to shoot a shoe being thrown from a moving car on set. So what they had to do was believable and possible was to shoot was if he immediately threw the shoes from his hands to Stanley. These differences, although may have been found to play a significant role in changing the theme, did not actually, in my opinion. Although it was pretty clear that some changes were made, the director managed to balance out the similarities in the end, such as how the conflict of who stole the shoes was similarly resolved, and the story continues. Hereby, a book's words might change in its adaptation into becoming a movie, for the purpose of a believable story both visually and textually. As my essay indulges in how the movie's actor contrasts the description of the book and how the chronology of the starting conflict is shot differently from the book, and even so, both manage to settle the difference as to being able to continue the movie. And after all, these changes do not change the theme of the story, as both centralizes on the same main idea. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.